Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HD. You want to follow me there on Twitter? And it's Tuesday, so that means it's Toss Up Tuesday. Why not? Toss Up Tuesday. There's not much going on, right? We got Showdown yesterday for NFL. We got the prices out, salaries out for the Sunday NFL slate. I mean, it's a pretty slow midweek now with the NFL and everything. There's no soccer. There's no soccer today. No Champions League. That's next Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's a toss-up. I'm tossing it up to the YouTube chat. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about it. And if you don't put in anything to talk about, then it's going to be a pretty short show, okay? So I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Anthony Golding, Real Life Pitcher, Max Coach, Sterling Woods, Suki Singh, Eric Hillcole, Daniel Hutchings, Con Campbell, EOW2389. That's obviously someone's license plate. Jerome Lewis, and yeah, I see you guys here. I see you guys here. Give me those thumbs up. Give me the thumbs in the morning. Hit the subscribe button. If you're new here, hit the notification bell to know when you go live. And Max Coach once said I was only 2 players away from splitting $1 million with 166 other players last night in Showdown. You shouldn't have played the lineup then. You shouldn't have played it. I never mind losing in Showdown to a lineup that splits 241 ways in what's supposed to be $1 million to first, and everyone gets $6,000. Okay, I know in results DB it doesn't show it. It always screws up some of these ties or whatever. It's not 11,412. It's 6,000. I think it was 6,099.25 or something like that. I'm just never going to play those lines. I'm just like, what the reason why I don't mind is because like I would have never gotten to that lineup because I'm not going to play a lineup that has this much ownership and zeros out. I mean, like there's nothing for me to fret about, right? When it's a lineup that wins, there's a 3-way tie up top, and it's like I could have gotten there. Like, okay, then it's like, oh, okay, there was a chance for me to win some money, right? But like, no, like I'm never gonna build these types of lineups. I played 15 lineups yesterday. On Mondays and Thursdays, doing the pre-lock show. It's kind of hard for me to make like 100, like that, because a lot of times I'm doing it like when inactives come out at 6:50, and then I got to prepare for a show at 7:20, so I got a half an hour. So a lot of times I did 15 lineups. I played 15 because I played the $33 one, and then I threw those lineups also into the bit large field and the play action, knowing that they're probably going to be a little bit more duplicated. Because for the field size in the $33 one, you want to be unique, but you don't have to be like nutso. So I built a bunch of lineups for that. I mean, I lost money, but I mean, everyone in the long run, if a lineup that's split 241 ways in the large field, 197,000 entry, like everyone loses money. There's basically Draftkings made money in the long run and not anyone else. I mean, it depends on the type of contest. For this size contest, you shouldn't be playing these types of lineups. But yeah, in a single entry, a solo winner, right? 1,112. Okay, yeah, there you go. I don't mind that lineup in the spy, right? I played a lot. My lineup in the spy. I love the way I play. I should be up here. No, I didn't cash in the spy. Right? I played a single entry lineup out of my 15 and got the Cephas touchdown, had Aaron Jones, had Aaron Rodgers, had all these guys other than, my captain was Alan Lazard, but whatever. And he didn't even get a target. My captain didn't even get a target. I played that. I like being a little bit more contrarian. But I had Aaron Jones line. Yeah, most of my lineups were like Aaron Jones, Alan Lazard. I had some Swift. I mean, AJ Dillon didn't do much, right? But I just looked at Slate IQ. Slate IQ, was high on running back 1, running back 2, wide receiver 3, right? Those types of lineups, wide receiver 3, like the secondary wide receivers, tight ends. So there you go. I mean, it's a 4-2. I was building primarily 3 threes. So it's like, okay, there's the lineup. But I can understand playing a zeroed out lineup with no players that are under like 10% owned or whatever in a contest like the Spy with 1,000 entries. When we come to almost 200,000 entries, like you're just not going to win often enough that when you do win and you split it 241 ways, it's impossible to be profitable long term. It's impossible. Take a look. I mean, we can scroll down. Can we go to the net? What's the second place? Technically, the second place lineup. Let's see if we could find that. Right. Okay. Well, okay. 106, and here's the next one, which was tied. What? How many ways? 10 ways. 10 ways. So you have Hawkinson in there and Cobb with Jones as the captain. So 10-way tie. That's a much better lineup. I would have much rather had this lineup than the 241 split lineup. Then underneath that, we have one at 242. How many way tie was this? 149, 242, 242, 20, 24-way tie, right? I mean, the truck got there. I mean, when you have Jones, Rodgers, Adams, they all get there. I mean, it's going to be hard to be unique. I mean, what's the next biggest, like the most unique lineup that we could find that didn't get there? I mean, I think it's going to be hard to find. 140. Oh, this one was duplicated a ton. 144.79. This was duplicated a ton. Jones and captain, Rodgers, both quarterbacks, Tanyan, Cephas, Amaran say, yeah, of course. You're playing all look at the ownership of all these guys. This is going to be majorly duped. 144.79, 130, 143.75. Let's see how duplicated this one. Still decently duplicated, but not as much as not as much as first place. So this one has AJ Dillon in. Okay. But still, just nothing. 140. Let's keep on going. 160. Oh, here's one. Here's one. I see 2. Only 2. See, now we're getting to some uniques. Right. 143.65. Only twice. Leaving 800 on the table. Yeah, with Equanimous St. Brown. So here you go. Here with the 1% owned. He actually got a point, right? He got a catch for no yards or something. So yeah, this one could have gotten there. I much rather would have had this line. Right, yeah, it didn't get there, but you'd have shot at what, $600,000 with that lineup? Let's see, 143.5. Here's a double, just 2 lineups. This is because it's leaving 2,200 on the table. You first take a look at this lineup. It was only duped twice. And you go Jones, Rodgers, Hawk, Tanyan, Cephas, Benson. And you go, really? I mean, you look at the ownership and you go, well, that seems like it should be duped more. No, well, it's leaving 2,200 on the table. Right? So you still get it, this combination of players was lower. So this had a chance at $600,000. Here's a completely unique 143.45. Kylan Hill. See, there you go. And he got 8 rushing yards, right? Garbage time at the end of the game. Imagine he breaks one, right, in garbage time, and he goes to the house. Like this, there you go. $1 million winner. Much rather have this lineup, leaving 800 on the table. 143.39. Let's go here. Okay, this is only a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-way dupe, leaving 1,800 on the table. Take a look. Still, similar combination of players that were in the winning lineup, but you leave more money on the table, and you reduce your duplication so much. Let's see, the 142.65, that looks like heavily duped. 142.65. Yeah, this one was duped a lot. Decently. Yeah, with Mercedes Lewis 0 in it. Okay. 142.05. 141.89. I'm trying to find uniques 141.25. Let's see. Keep on going. Can we go any further? I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if we could go further on results DB. You'd have to download the CSV. I think we're done. I think it won't let me go any further. Or it's borked. Or it's done. We done. Let's go. Let's see if we can do this again. Contest. Okay, let's see if we can get there. Yeah, I think it stops at the five, a certain amount of entries or whatever. Or is that the cash line? I have no idea. I usually I don't look through it like this. You just look directly at the CSV and you can see. But yeah, you should be playing, if you're playing the large field, remember, if you're playing the single entry stuff, you're playing the smaller field stuff, sure, okay. I mean, this lineup was still like, here's this 139 lineup. This was duplicated 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the SPY. Jones, Adams, Rogers, Packers defense, Cephas, Brown. Okay. I mean, you still want to avoid duplication no matter what. But with only 1,000 entries, you're less likely to be duplicated, even using all of your salary. Right, here's a double duplication, right? You don't have to go nuts. You'll still see some lineups that are decently duplicated. 1, 2, 3. Obviously, with the $20,000 first prize, like the more you duplicate, I mean, the less you're spending $100. You get a 5-way dupe or something, then you're significantly more cutting down your EV as opposed to a $1 million to first, 100,000 to second type of thing where you're aiming for first. That's duped 5 times. Like you're making a little over $200,000. So I was like, okay, I don't from a raw money perspective, I don't mind. But if you split this, 5 ways, we're talking about what 30, 40, $8,000 or something, which is not horrible, but that's like coming in third place. 2010 6-3, I think it was. I don't know what the splits are here. It shows how important from a long-term profitability perspective. If you just played one lineup for $15 and you got the $6,000 and the whatever, I know you're probably happy. But if you played that slate out 100 times, 1,000 times, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money in the long run doing that. Going through the YouTube chat. Daniel Hutchins says, I come to the conclusion that there are some showdown contests not worth max entering. If the playout structure is flat enough and the max multiple you get paid for max entering is small enough, it's probably not worth it. For example, at $33 with 155 max entries and 10K top payout. Yeah, right? Why would you max that out? Because I typically, it's an estimate. I only put, I aim for. Doesn't mean I always do it. Like whatever 10th place is. Like I don't put, obviously showdown's a little bit different because you're kind of aiming for who cares about 10th place. But 10th place determines like how much money am I willing to invest in entries. So like the slant, for instance. Well, the slant, like I think 10th place pays $2,000. So to max enter the slant at $9, right? We're talking about $1,250, right? Or $1,350. Well, 10th place is $2,000, so I don't mind, right? But sometimes we have these bat flips. The $18 bat flip in MLB, 10th place is $750. Like, so I'm not going to enter more than like what, 45 lineups, 50 lineups. Like it gets to the point where the payout structure is too top heavy that it's unsustainable. Or the first place isn't top heavy enough, right? If it's too flat, like if it's too top heavy or too flat, that's why some people I see maxing the mini max when they pay 10% the first. I think that's wrong to do. Where the first place is $1,000 and it's $1 entry, and you can pay $150, something like that. It's like, yeah, when you bink, you're not getting that big. You're not getting that big of a payday in relation to the amount of money that you put in. Doesn't mean you can't. Doesn't mean it's not plus EV. It just means that you're increasing your variance like to the point of stupidity. Ricardo Ray says, I'm finding out that dupes is better than not cashing by trying to be too cute. That would be incorrect, Ricardo. Your goal in GPP is not to cash. Your goal in GPP is to win. To win first. All the equity in these contests on the top. You're not going to be good enough to cash often enough to make money just cash. No one is that good enough. The best player, the best DFS player in the world is not good enough to cash often enough to beat the rake. With the current payout structures the way they are. Okay? There are probably instances if the payout structures were flatter at the top and narrower at the end, so they only paid like 15% of the field. Like they paid 15%, and if you got to 15%, you got like 3x. They did something like that. Then it could be possible. But given the current payout structure and the rake in DFS, just cashing at the 25 to 22, 20 to 25th percentile line, you know, up there, whatever you want to, the top 20, 25th percentile line, you're not going to get there often enough. So no. Just to put things into perspective, Ricardo, okay? I've played, I don't know, I've probably played over the past 3 years in NFL, at least, right? Because I mean, I guess NBA, I've played NBA Showdown before, but let's just say I've played 100 NFL Showdown slates. Okay, I've lost on like 97 of them, 96 of them, right? But I've made over $100,000. Okay, so the point isn't to cash. The point is to play to win, build plus EV lineups to win, and then wait, and then try to survive long enough so you get the wins, right? Manage your bankroll. I have two showdown units that weren't that duplicated. You know, 6. I think one was 6-way and one was 4-way. And there you go. That's it. All these other slates, you lose money, right? Sometimes I play the single entry. Sometimes I play smaller field stuff in addition. That kind of evens it out a little. But no. I know before the slate starts whether or not I did well. Like not results-wise, process-wise. Once the slate locks and you download the CSV and you go, okay, how many times is my lineup duplicated? Each of my lineups duplicated. If the numbers are way too high, I go, okay, this sucks. Doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't even matter what happens. Do that in MMA. And I'm not someone that goes for like every lineup has to be unique. Like I'll play MMA. I'll play a 150 in MMA. I think this last slate, I 150. I think I had 54 uniques out of 150. But like I had like 70 of them that were under 5. So like it doesn't have to be 1. Like under 5, under 10. I judge it by that. I just don't want I don't want 30-way, 40-way, 50-way stuff. 100-way. I mean, that's obvious. I'm typically not even getting there. If I'm getting lineups that are duped 100 times in MMA, it's because I made a mistake, right? Not because I intended on doing that. Right? Michael Dompier says, per the DFS Facts Twitter, which is a good account to follow, at DFS Facts. They stopped going after they stopped after going through the top 50 RG players because not one of them made a profit from the showdown last night. Yes, when there's a 251-way tie in the large field GPP, right? No one makes money. Like that's a slate that if we take a look, we go through the lineup, the 241-way split. If you go through it, you're not gonna. You go to the top 50 in the RG rankings, you're not going to find anyone in there. You're not going to find anyone. I mean, I look through. I'm like, okay, well, who are the schmucks that made this line? Right? You'll see, okay, look, I won. You can go on Twitter and people, you know, well, look what I did. Look what I did. And as I call it, it's just broadcasting your own stupidity. Playing a 251-way dupe, 41-way dupe lineup with full salary. So I looked through and I was like, I don't recognize any of these people. Right? I'm just like going through. It's like, nope. I don't see I mean, how many 150 maxers, which tend to be the sharper players, right? You don't have to, but like I said, you don't have to max 100. I don't, right? So here we go. There's 150 maxer. There's another one, but I mean, I don't know who they are. There's Third and Schlong. Okay, but he's more of a cash player. So we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still don't recognize who they are. 6, 7, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. We got 8. Yeah, 8. Right. Right. If you even take a look at some of the ones that are duped underneath here, I mean, you don't even see. I mean, you don't see. I mean, it's the your usual suspects, the guys that like we're studying most of the time. I take a look through and like, where are these people? Right, they're not even there. Right, because why are you playing lineups that are going to be so heavily duplicated? I mean, it's simple. Good players are going to lose on those slates. Okay, and why do you think I don't mind? Like, oh, great. Okay, let the people that make dupes get some money. We'll win it back in the next slate. Perfectly fine. I'm never going to get to that lineup, so there's nothing for me to be upset about. Oh, I could have gotten it. Who cares? Right. Daniel says that's the genius of Showdown, though. A nights like yesterday, only the casuals make money. That happens a fair bit in Showdown. Yes. That's why why do you think I don't mind? People feel, oh, you said telling me you wouldn't rather have the 6,000. No, I wouldn't, because that means I'm playing bad. Now on that given slate, if I knew that was the result, if I had a crystal ball and I knew exactly, of course, I'd make 150 lineups of that lineup. Right, of course. But you don't play with that, wouldn't be playing well. Right? If you see me make 150 of that same lineup duplicated 150 ways to now make it a 390 way tie, that means I screwed up the CS, left a dummy lineup in it, or I'm from the future. Like, other than that, you're playing badly. The goal in DFS long term is to play well, and the money will come. So seeing that no one I really recognize is in that split, Bink, like, just highlights the fact that, well, good players don't play those types of lineups. You have to get outside of this one slate mentality. The one slate mentality is the worst. You'll never grow having a one slate mentality, right? Because people will look and go, okay, one slate mentality. They'll go to let's go to yesterday. Let's go to Sunday. They'll go to the Millie, right? One slate mentality. I'm going to go to the winning lineup in the Millie. I'm going to go, okay, Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Rob Gronkowski, Tyler Lockett, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Rondell Moore, Cardinals defense, Marvin Jones, and go, oh, okay, maybe playing the quarterback and this together, and then trying to analyze something here. If I only did that type of thing to make this one lineup, not realizing the fact that like just play good lineups. Oh, since this one lineup won, I should have played Derrick. I mean, the main thing is should have played Derrick Henry at 7% ownership. Should you have? I mean, don't judge it by the results. Judge it by what was the strategic decision beforehand. And if you made those strategic decisions over and over and over and over again, would you be profitable? And if you take a look, you go to and study the top players, the players that are the most profitable, long-term, not talking about flashes in the pan, long-term guys. And are you making similar decisions to them? And if you barely had any Derrick Henry on Sunday, you were in line with 90% of the people that make the most amount of money in DFS. Okay? So which side do you want to be on? If you had the opportunity, this is what I ask. When people, like yesterday's Showdown slate, of like, I'd rather have the $6,000 or something, right? I'd rather duplicate and cash than not cash at all. I go, do you want to trade the past 5 years results with any of the guys in the top other RG rankings with me? Would you trade 5-6 years worth of results with me? And most people would say yes. I said, okay, well, I didn't play this line. I mean, like, I didn't play that line in Showdown. I didn't play any of these heavily duplicated lineups in Showdown. So do that over and over again. You want to win at Showdown? I've won at Showdown. But understand, you're going to play 97 times out of 100 and lose, and 3 times you're going to win. Hopefully in the 3 times you make enough money. But in Showdown, you're aiming for first, so it tends to be a lot of money. So instead of thinking of what should I have done on that one slate, think in terms of what should I be doing on 1,000 slates over the course of a 3 to 4 year period. Am I building lineups similar to guys that have been profitable for 5+ years? That's to me, that's the simplest way to judge. Just go through results DB and go, go to the RotoGrinders rankings, the top 50 or whatever, and find those players and say, what types of lineups are they building? They're all not going to build the same exact thing on every slate, but I built like this. What was the consensus? Oh, this guy went this way. This guy faded that guy, but went the other way. And you look through, and if like you played X, Y, and Z that like no one made any strategic decision, you have 48% of the guy that almost no one has, and you decided to play this construction that like no one else no respectable player did, you're probably screwing up. You probably did something wrong. No matter if you won or lost. If you won doing that, that doesn't even mean, oh, you're good. And all these 50, 100 guys are bad, right? On that one slate, sure, you got lucky on that one slate, but is that sustainable long term? Probably not. Let's see. Hoglarin said, I went through about 8 or 9 sharper players in the Excel download last night to see how well they did at avoiding dupes. Most were pretty good. A couple were rather amazing. Yeah, I didn't go through other players. I mean, like I said, I played 15 lineups. I wasn't as concerned with duplicates, being that I was playing the $33 contest, and I just threw them in. I'm like if I'm going to play 15 lineups into this, why not just all into that and all into the play action, just whatever it is, right? I'm pretty sure my 15 lineups were not unique. I'm not sure if they were heavily duplicated. Maybe I don't even think my Jones lineup. I'm looking at my little sheet here. Probably my Jones lineup weren't, but they could have been duped like maybe 20 times in the large field, something like that. Paul Adair said, LOL, I played 1% Lazard at captain, took nearly last in my 600-person single entry. I almost cashed in the single entry with Lazard captain because I had everyone else right. So I had Rodgers, I had Jones, I had Goff, I had Cephas, and I had someone else. Another line. It was a 3-3 line. So I had 0 from my captain, but I got all the points in my flex. So I'm sitting there like 15 points behind the cash line with like a 0 at captain, which is fine. If I have 1% own captain in single entry, I'll take it. One long pass instead of Devontae Adams and one long pass to Alan Lazard, 50-yard touchdown or something, then I'm in business. He ended up getting no targets. He had plenty of snaps though. Look at MVS. MVS got like 5 targets, no catches. Right, so he got a 0. That you could feel worse about. And Alan Lazard he had a good block right on one of the Aaron Jones's touchdowns. That's about it. You don't get points for that. Mr. Hellreal 14, what was wrong with the Henry Lockett correlation? There's nothing wrong with it. Most sharp players in on Sunday slate didn't play Henry. Right? Like if you're thinking, and Gronk definitely at 17% owned, obviously it's paired with Brady. So yes, Brady, Gronk, Fournette. I mean, yes, this isn't a bad lineup. No, it's not. But don't go. The point that I'm making is not, oh, this is a bad lineup, it shouldn't have won. It's like there's no point in studying this lineup because you're not going back to play this slate. Oh, yeah, obviously, if we knew that Derrick Henry's putting up 50 points, you should have played him. Everyone should have played him. Okay, why didn't we? But you don't know that. So you go here, you go study sharp players. You don't study the top lineup. You study sharp players. So if you want to gain something, obviously, don't just look at individual players. You want to look at lineups. You can get a sense of how they're constructing by just looking at this. I mean, you look at Chipotle Attic. I mean, obviously, very condensed. Some of these guys play very condensed sets. I go to Hog Lawrence. He's in the chat, right? We go here. We go to Awesomeo, right? Take a look at a bunch of these people, right? You go through. I Slewfoot you. He's good. Baranosaurus is good. JBC. I mean, most of the 150ers. Sometimes you could use them as a group. Like you get some Excel widgetry, you can make it like all of the 150 maxers as a group and then see what that is and compare it to the field. Royal Pain, Brick 75. Let's just go through. I mean, I'm just picking cheese. Here's cheese. There's cheese down there. Sammy Knoll, he's good. TJ is fine. I mean, just Felix. Oh, okay. I mean, just take a look. Let's go across the board. Right. Just look in general. Michael Thomas. When did this happen? Oh, okay. Why did I see Michael Thomas up here? Okay. So now I'm going to go to Henry. Come on. Okay. Derrick Henry. Okay. 0, 8, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, less than 1, 12 for cheese. 0, 1, 5. Okay. So if you faded Derrick Henry on Sunday, but so did like some of the best players in DFS. Right? I mean, like, so if you're just going by that one decision, well, in general, I mean, look, we had people that had 0, like not even one line out of 150 that had Derrick Henry. I bet you I could pull up another 10 and it'll look pretty much the same also. So what can you learn by staring at a lineup? By the winning lineup? Leonard Fournette. Well, he was also in. I played some Leonard Fournette. 0, 9, 2, 2, 2, 8. I mean, there's a little some, but a lot of zeros, a lot of nothings. If we take a look at Gronk, obviously he's playing Brady, so I get it. Most were under. I'm assuming I Slewfoot you and Felix over here had a lot more Brady stacks. Like if you had Brady stacks, if you had a lot of Brady exposure, you would have Gronkowski. Okay, I get that. So Felix and I Slewfoot you. Let's take a look at the Brady exposure. 30%, 24%. But of course, Chipotle Attic at 50. Chipotle Attic had a very condensed pool. So it's hard to go by what he did because he just kind of built, like, it seems like he built, 5 core players and then just rotated a whole bunch of other stuff. He hasn't been that active in MLB either. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the Burrito Brothers. But this is how you should study what people are doing, right? I mean, Royal Pain is playing 100%, 100%. What happened here? He played 100% CeeDee Lamb, 100% Cooper, 100% Allen. He just put his cash lineup in? Dak Prescott, it looks like Royal Pain just said screw it and uploaded pretty much a cash lineup for all of his lineups. Right? See, Chris Carson. Take a look at Chris Carson across the board. Like all this blue. All this blue. Over. Everyone is Carson. He was lucky to get there with the 2 touchdowns. So if you're like, I play David Montgomery over Chris Carson, right? And you take a look at across the board, and it's like, well, if you played a lot of David Montgomery over Chris Carson, like you did the opposite of most sharp players in large field GPPs. Doesn't matter if David Montgomery went for 40 points, it still wouldn't have changed that. You look and like, who are players that I would not mind changing my career results with their career results? Well, take a look at what they do. Seemed like no one had a problem jamming in Carson. You could look at tons of them. I mean, I just brought up a whole bunch, but I mean, that's what Results DB is here for. It's free. You don't even need to be a RotoGrinders premium. Right? A lot of people are under on Allen, but some, it depended on if you were using this game as a pivot or using the running backs as a pivot. If you're like low or high on Najee Harris, depending on your lineup construction. So I get it. When Hog Lawrence has 0% Allen, I get why. I was under on Allen also. That's how you learn. But most people, I would say 99% of people that play DFS, once the slate is over, they move on to the next slate. People are already talking about running back salaries for Sunday. It's Tuesday. You have all the time in the world. How are you going to learn to play better without reflecting on what just happened? And not on the calls that you make. Oh, I got that guy right. It's like, no, how did you build lineups in comparison to sharp players? In comparison to what you think the ownership is going to be. Oh, I played a ton of so-and-so because I thought he was going to be low owned, and it turns out he's higher, right? If you played Jamar Chase in the Millie on Sunday, right, based on this, thinking that he'd be 8% owned, and he turns out to be 18% owned, well, then you screwed up. Doesn't matter what he did. Right? If you played Eli Mitchell thinking he'd be under the radar and he's 15% owned, then you screwed up. Doesn't matter what he did. But if you're like, I'm gonna fade, you know, someone, I'm gonna fade Kenyon Drake because he's gonna be 20% owned, and then he turns out to be 6% owned, then you screwed up also. You thought you were getting leverage by fading Drake, and in fact, you weren't. He was low. It was low owned. Right? So judging your decisions versus the actual ownership that comes in for the contest. Like, that's what you should be learning from. How to make better decisions, not how to predict the future, because no one could do that. Yes, if I could predict the future, I'd have the Derrick Henry lineup on Sunday. But I can't. I can only weigh my decisions versus the decisions of people that make a lot of money. And I make money playing DFS. So, like, judge it versus my decisions versus this guy's decision versus that person's decisions. Doesn't matter what the results are. Let's see. I played a bunch on Koch. I played a bunch of MVS, but none of the sharp guys I looked at had much of him. I was okay with it given the opportunities he had at low ownership. Okay, it's showdown. It's showdown. You can play almost anyone in showdown. I thought MVS was a little too high price and be higher owned than Lazard. But it's showdown. You can't, sometimes you can't even go by like who to play in showdown. Like that type of, you have to look at the constructions. How many duplicates? Like if you had played a ton of MVS, if you had 50 lineups on the showdown yesterday and played Valdez, Scantlin, and all of them, and they were all unique, then you did a good job. Right? Don't go by the amount, go by the duplication factor more in showdown than you know, the specific players versus sharper people. Who cares? You have duplicated lineups that at least have guys in the game. Obviously, if you played Tyrell Williams that was out, obviously you have less duplicated lineups, but you almost have no shot at winning. Kurt and Linda Makinich. What happened to Pokey 777 on FanDuel? I have no idea. Who is Pokey 7777? Anyone know what happened to Pokey? Are they missing? Do we have to send out a report? Do we have to put whoever that is on a milk carton? I don't know. What happened? What happened to Pokey? I don't know. Who's Pokey 777? Is that like a weird username of someone that I should know? I mean, I don't play GPPs on FanDuel that much. I mean, I played MLB. But I don't know. I don't know Pokey. I don't know Pokey 7777. Whatever. So what else you got for me, YouTube chat? It's Toss Up Tuesday. Remember, if you're not going to toss stuff in the YouTube chat, it's going to be a shorter show today, right? What else is there to do on a Tuesday? We're still learning from the past slates, waiting to see what's going to happen this week. We got showdown on Thursday. Panthers who? Texans, right? We got that. We got MMA. We have a UFC pay-per-view card Okay, so we can talk about that on Friday. We got some soccer stuff coming up, right? Right. Tomorrow we could look a little bit more about what's going to happen on the main slate, week 3 slate a bit more. Some salary stuff, but I mean that's what the show is. We talk about strategy on this show, DFS strategy. And that's why on Tuesday I toss it up to you in the YouTube chat. So give me those thumbs up. Give me the thumbs. Give me the subscribe button. Give me the subscribe button. Give me the notification bell. We got Grinders live later today, right? We still got baseball going on, right? I'm not playing it. All I know is that there was some 2K guy yesterday, Siri, leadoff home run. Like that's why I don't play baseball, right? I have the most owned, underpriced guy in the slate hit a leadoff home run, right? That's why I got rid of it. Just play everything else. We're gonna NBA coming up, what, a month from now or so? We got preseason. We play preseason NBA, and Alan Lem will be into that in our Discord. But yeah, so sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. Get $10 off your first month for signing up there. Mr. Hellreal 14, can I see a few of your lineups from Sunday? You could go into results deep. You could see all of them. I played 150 into the slant. I played a whole bunch of single entry stuff also. So just go to results DB, like I'm showing you here. Here's the $9 slant, right? You go to ownership. It'll load. There's a lot more people in this contest. Let's go. Come on. You could do it. Are they updating it currently? Sometimes it gets slow when they're updating. Okay. It's coming. It's coming. Right? And you type in my username. And then you could just, okay, let's go. I already got it there. Yeah, they must be updating it in the background. Typically, it's not this slow. Come on, I just had it there. Blender, come on, give it to me. Okay, there you go. Click on the checkbox and you see all my exposures. Right? Najee Harris, Chris Carson, Stephon Diggs. I had a lot of the Bills, right? Diggs, Beasley, Waddle, Edmonds, Brady, Harris, Eckler. I mean, you could do this yourself. Go through and you look. Right? If you took a look at my running back exposure, right? You can see here. I had a little bit of Kamara, a little bit of Chubb, a little bit of McCaffrey, a little bit of Fournette, Drake, Javonte Williams, Mixon, Montgomery, Elliott, Henderson, Eckler. A lot more Eckler and Elliott because I wasn't playing as much of the Cowboys Chargers passing game. And I had a lot of obviously the chalk running backs, and then cheaper running backs to fit into Josh Allen stacks, Murray stacks, Tom Brady stacks, stuff like that. Like looking through my exposures, I probably should have done well, other than the fact that I had 0 Derrick Henry. Right? If Derrick Henry puts up 6 points, I would have made a lot more money on Sunday. That's about it. Right? So you can look through results DB and you can see that. Go to rotogrinders.com/results DB. You can look at all of my lineups. Let's see. Raul, the answer is probably lineups, not players. Okay, you're probably going to be right. But the leverage of high-owned wide receivers to play running back. But on teams where running back is part of the passing game, that running back can be stacked with quarterback plus wide receiver also. How do you approach? It depends on the lineup. Obviously, you could probably play Murray plus Edmonds on any of the running backs that could catch 5+ balls, like Herbert plus Eckler. You could do that. You're probably not playing Nick Chubb with Baker Mayfield for that. But how do you approach it? You approach it on an individual basis, depending on the lineup, just like you would anything else. And the higher the team scores, the more points the team scores, the more that the quarterback and running back are actually correlated to each other. The team puts up 60 points. The running back could run the ball in 3 times, and the quarterback could throw the ball 4 times into the end zone, right? So the higher the score gets, the more correlated quarterback and running back gets, even if they're not a pass catcher. We saw that with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry last year. But that's correlated to the score, the team's total, not the implied total, the actual, what actually happens in the game. So you may look and you go like, how do you play a plodding running back with their quarterback? Well, if the team scores 50 points, right? Darrell Henderson he would have had a much better game if he didn't get injured in the fourth quarter. But him and Kupp, if you played Stafford, Henderson, Kupp, even though like Henderson got like one catch, that was fine. They were putting up enough points. Imagine they put up another touchdown or two, then they're all fine if they put up that many points. If the game's 21-17, probably not. Their 90th percentile, their 80th, 90th percentile outcomes are not correlating with each other. Their 50th, 60th percentile results, sure, okay, yeah, that's not going to cut it in GPP. That's why it's on an individual basis. I'm probably not likely to stack the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver of a team that has an implied total of 17. Right now, sure they could score. They could score 48, but it's much less likely to score 48 than a team with a 28 implied total. Right. I'm more likely to play Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, and Tyler Lockett together. Right. The Seahawks, or the Buccaneers, or the Chiefs. Teams that typically have high implied totals, and then play the running back in those types of stacks. So regardless if they're passing or they do whatever. They're more likely to put up a lot more points. That's it. Ceilings come from touchdowns primarily. So you want the teams that are going to score the most touchdowns, most likely. Uncrabby Cabby. After reviewing the lineups in the single entry tournaments on FanDuel from Sunday, I'm beginning to question the importance of correlation as it pertains to single entry. Actually, it probably is important more in single entry. You have to understand levers. I'll repeat this for the 874th time. There are 3 levers in DFS, okay? There are 3. Projection, correlation, and leverage, okay? There are 3 levers. Projection is who, median-wise, who's going to do the best, right? Right? This running back, Najee Harris, projects for a 20-point median, right? This guy projects for a 14-point median, right? So if we ran this line, we ran this laid out a million times, the guy with the 20 is going to outscore the guy with the 14 more often than not by this amount, by some amount, okay? So that 6-point difference, you could, if you go, well, the guy that has a 20-point projection is going to be 50% owned. And the guy with 14-point projection is going to be 1% owned. If you play this guy that's below him, he's going to outscore this other guy more than 1% of the time, more than the difference. They should be 50 times more differently owned. So to make up those 6 points in projection, if you're going to play the other guy, if you're going to play the first guy, that means you're jamming the projection lever up. You go, okay, I'm just going to play the best projection, not care about ownership. Leverage is the caring about ownership. So you're like, okay, I'm going to lower my projection by 6 points, but I get a ton of ownership discount, ton of leverage by doing so, right? And then correlation is like, well, if this 1% owned guy does well, it's more likely that this other guy across from him in the other game, in whatever game he's in, and that guy's, let's say, 15%. Who cares at that point? And you're like, well, if I play the guy that's correlated to that guy, like, who else could I play instead of that guy? Just for a random guy, right? So the correlated play, let's say his projection is 18 points. And you go, okay, if I play the correlated play to that 1% owned guy, it's 18 points. There's another guy that's here that projects for 19, right? So is the 1 point worth it? That's what you have to ask yourself. So that's the correlation lever. Would you rather, you're already giving up 6 points on projection before. Let's say the guy that's correlated is 15 points, but there's another guy that's projected in the same price, same everything for 20 points. maybe that 5-point difference isn't worth the correlation. It probably isn't. Right? You've already given up 6 points of projection just to get the lower owned player. Are you willing to give up 5 more points of projection in order to get the correlated player now? Probably not. Right? So that's why the levers are here. If you played the other guy, that you bumped up your projection but didn't have much leverage, maybe now you start pulling up the correlate. What's correlated to that high guy? Right? So it's all these levers. So it's not what's important and what's not important. Your whole lineup is based on these levers. Okay? If you're playing cash games, you're probably just jamming up the projection lever and just that's it. Right? But in GPPs, depending on the size of the contest, you're going to be moving your levers. That you may have a lineup in a certain contest that has the levers that have the projection here, the correlation there, and the leverage there. Right? It's like if you look at it from a 1 to 10 scale, it may be one contest you're doing 8, 4, 6, and another lineup you're doing 6, 2, 8, and another lineup you're doing 9, 8, 3. And if you looked at the expected value of each of the lineups, they may be equal to each other. One may be chalky but have a lot of correlation in it. One may be not chalky, have no correlation to it. I mean, that's what lineups, not players, means. And obviously, the amount of everything else that the willingness to remove projection for correlation and leverage is dependent on the size of the contest. The larger the size, the more likely that you should be giving up projection in order to gain other things, get the other levers. Now, in small field contests, since you don't need to hit the nuts, sometimes it's more worthwhile to jam up the correlation lever and say, I just want to get 1 game right or 2 games right. I don't know which one of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett's going to get there, but I'm betting on the Seahawks Titans game. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to play Russell Wilson. I'm going to play Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Derrick Henry, and Julio Jones, and then whatever fits in the rest of the line. I'm not sure if you could fit much in the rest of your lineup if you do it that way. And you're just going to go, I hope this game puts up 60, 70 points. And I can get a dud, right? As long as I get like 4 touchdowns between Metcalf and Lockett, I don't care if all 4 go to 1. So having a 0 in this lineup with everything else going nuts may still win me a small field GPP. Now, a large field one, you're probably not going to be able to win with a dud like that. So these are the levers. So it's not about one thing being important, one thing not being important, how important it is. No, it's all important, depending on the exact lineup, the individual lineup. You could show me a lineup that I look at for a certain contest and go, it's horrible. And then you could show me a lineup that is like a 2v2 off of that and go, that's an amazing lineup. And you go, well, what's the difference? Well, the lineup that you're showing me next has a 5-point higher projection, right? 20% less ownership and more correlation. And I'm like, okay, like that to me, that's why. If you had a choice between playing 2 lineups, why aren't you playing the much better lineup, right? Well, this one has whatever. I'm playing some 1% owned guy that projects like 8 points lower than people in his position. I go, why do you? That isn't you're giving up too much projection for not that much leverage by doing a 1v. That's that classic 1v1, right? I'm going to take the highest. I'm going to take Najee Harris, and instead of playing Najee Harris, I'm going to go and I'm going to play a running back at the same price, similar price that projects 8 points lower, and then leaving the rest of the lineup the same. And I go, well, that lineup sucks. He goes, why? I'm playing a 1% owned guy. Yes, you remove 20% of your ownership, and you dropped 8 points in projection. If you wanted to drop 8 points in projection while giving up 20% of your ownership sum, you could have done so in a much better way than a 1v1. You could have done a 4v4, and that lineup would still have the same amount of ownership sum, same amount of projection, but have a better chance at winning first place. Because this lineup is all based around, here's the chalk cash lineup, and I hope the 1% owned guy goes for 50 points. Like, that's the only way that it wins. Everything else in your lineup is still too chalky. That's why you have to look at individual lineups. Joe Stroop, why were you overweight on Brady but so underweight on Gronk for the slant? Because Gronk did not project well. I had a lot of Brady single stacks. Brady plus one receiver. And who did they play? Who were they playing? I forgot. The Falcons. And then Ridley. Because I also had Pitts, right? A lot of times the Brady lineups would have Pitts as the run back to fill a tight end slot. So there. Kai Roach, does it make sense to use more standard deviations for my ceiling projection in contests with more entries and or slates with more games? Why would you change that? I don't think it matters. You're still comparing them relatively, so I don't think it matters. What's the difference between the 75th percentile and 90th percentile in the grand scheme of things? You're not going to change. It's not going to change anything about your lineups. Are there players out there that have such insanely different relative 90th, 95th percentile, 2 standard deviation outcomes than other players that you couldn't judge it by the first standard deviation? I don't think so. If anything, it's what, you did a point, half a point or something. I don't think it matters. The seal, I mean, if you're using the 75th or the 80th percentile or whatever, the 83rd, 84th, whatever, I think that's fine. What's wrong with that? I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe someone, I don't look at the data that closely like that. But I can't see the lineups looking any differently using the 84th and versus the 95th. I mean, obviously I see the difference between the 50th and the 80th. But not between the 80th and the 90th. Because Derrick Henry's ceiling was really low. Derrick Henry's ceiling on the last slate wasn't low. It was low in comparison to McCaffrey and Kamara and Cook. That's all. And he was 8,800. Derrick Henry's 90th percentile outcome is probably lower than McCaffrey's, probably lower than Kamara's and lower than Cook's. I mean, that makes sense. Because his projection was low from him. So if you want him, then bump him up. Screw it. Then who cares what the model says? Because his projection was low for you. Let's get back to basics. What do we do? Okay, I missed. We looked at all those sharp players, right? Go into the CSV of the Millie, of the slant, and download all look at the top 40, 50. Look at all the top people in RotoGrinders on the rankings. Take a look at their Derrick Henry exposure. Virtually non-existent. Why? Because the projection was low. So if it was low for them, it's low for you. It probably is correct. Probably more correct, more accurate. So you're doing the one slate mentality. What made me not get on Derrick Henry? Who cares? Did 90% of the sharper players, 95% of the sharper players, 99% of the sharper players that played DFS, the most winning, profitable players in all of daily fantasy sports history. Most had none of them or barely any. Okay? So what's more likely, that your projection was wrong and everyone was wrong also? Or that your projection was right and it's confirmed by the fact that barely any sharp player got Derrick Henry in their lineups? Occam's razor. It's more likely that the projection was accurate, and doesn't mean Derrick Henry can't get there. But in comparison to the rest of the slate and the decisions you made in your lineups, Derrick Henry was not someone that was heavily prioritized or even, getting into line. Most of the high-end running backs were not getting into lineups at all. And that's confirmed by looking through. I mean, what are you going to do? I want to play lineups that look nothing like 100 of the sharpest players in the history of daily fantasy sports. Do you think you could do that long term and be profitable? Yeah, on that one slate. Yes, on that one slate, if you went against all of the sharpest players in the history of daily fantasy sports, you would have gotten to Henry, you would have played Gronkowski, and you would have won a bunch of money. And then how about the other 17 weeks? How about the other 50 slates? How about MLB? How about NBA? You're going to not just play more, you can play more than one slate. Imagine if you're the what's the likelihood of you playing 1,000 slates, and every time you look at the sharpest players in the history of daily fantasy sports, you're on the complete opposite side of all of them. Every single slate for 1,000 slates. Do you think you're going to be profitable? Probably not. Probably going to be losing as the biggest loser. So that's what you should be judging it by. Michael Biakalis. Why was low on Henry, who was the history of being a slate breaker, a bad play? He wasn't a bad play. I never said he was a bad play. I don't even think there's no such thing as plays. Michael, I would suggest like watching the pregame, this show, like watch all 300 episodes. No one is a bad play. No one, other than injured players. Derrick Henry was not a bad play yesterday. Not at all. I have no issue if he played Derrick Henry yesterday whatsoever. I didn't. Why didn't I play Derrick Henry? Because he didn't fit into the lineups that were the most profitable. That's the reason. Not because Derrick Henry's a bad play. Because we're playing lineups. We're not playing players. So if I would have built Derrick Henry lineups, they would have projected lower than other similarly owned lineups. And why would I play lineups that have a lower projection with the same ownership? That's the question. Not Derrick Henry. That's not the question. Could you have built Derrick Henry lineups that were similar to other lineups you were playing? Yes, depending on the lineups that you were playing. Right? When I'm playing Josh Allen plus Stephon Diggs plus Emmanuel Sanders plus Jalen Waddle plus Chris Carson plus, I mean, where does Derrick Henry fit into that lineup? That lineup projects for X at Y ownership. If I plug Derrick Henry in, I'm going to end up with another guy, a 2v2, that ends up being higher owned and lower projected. So why am I playing that lineup? So I need to find Derrick Henry lineups that meet a criteria where it matches another lineup that I'm playing. And you know what? In 150, didn't find it. There weren't any. There were ones that had Kamara, because Kamara was projected slightly higher. There were ones with McCaffrey. There were barely any ones with McCaffrey, but some. There were more with Cook, but I had Cook because I was playing the Cardinals game. Cook was more of a priority. He was projected slightly more, and he was also correlated with the Arizona players that I was playing already. Derrick Henry wasn't. Derrick Henry, yes, I had some Metcalf, I have some Lockett, but to make Henry Lockett lineups with the rest of the other slots, 7 other slots in the lineup, those lineups projected lower and were higher owned than the other lineups that I had in that range. And that's how I don't get any Derrick Henry. That's how most of the sharper players don't. That's the reason. It has nothing to do with I'm deciding not to play Derrick Henry. It's that the Derrick Henry lineups are not as good. We simulated this slate 1,000,000 times. The Derrick Henry lineups would not perform as well as the Alvin Kamara lineups or the McCaffrey or the Cook lineups, because we obviously or the Chubb lineups even, 8,200. Obviously, we're looking at like a similar construction like with that guy up there. So if you did that, then like who you prioritize? Most likely, none of the lineups that paid up at running back performed as well as the ones that paid down and paid up at wide receiver. And that's why more of those lineups were used. That's why it's about lineups. It's not about players. There's no such thing as a good or a bad play. Is Derrick Henry a good? Yes, he could always get 50. You're right. He can. So could anyone else. Why was Deontay Johnson a good play? I don't know. I mean, what's a good play and a bad play? The only way that these guys could be like awful plays is if they're priced to the point in which like it's It would be almost impossible. If Deontay Johnson was 16,700 on a classic, yes, he's a horrible play. Yeah, but he has a ceiling. Yeah, but you're paying. Why are you paying? He's Christian McCaffrey. Oh, I'm going to play Christian McCaffrey. 34,000. Why are you going to pay like 2/3 of your salary on the one guy? He's obviously a horrible play at that price. Christian McCaffrey, 3,000 min price, probably jamming into pretty much all of your lineups. So there's no such thing as a good play and a bad play. No one's ever. There's rarely ever going to be a guy in football that's going to be so egregiously overpriced that they have nearly a 0% shot at being in the optimal lineup, being in a GPP winning lineup. So that makes anyone could be a good play, anyone, depending on the lineup that they're in. If you played Derrick Henry in a lineup that had if you played Derrick Henry in a lineup with Zach Wilson, you played Zach Wilson plus Corey Davis plus Jacoby Myers. You played let's go to even Kenyon Drake, and you played a Zach Pascal one-off, and I'm listing like all these single-digit owned guys. Like, why are you playing Derrick Henry in that one? I mean, like, dude, like that. Those levers. It's like you're jamming this leverage lever down so hard that your projection is just like absurdly too low. Could it get there? Sure, I guess so, but it's probably negative. It's probably negative EV. Yes, you're right. You're playing all 1% owned, but you're playing your highest owned guy is Derrick Henry at 7%. And then you're playing a whole bunch of 1 to 3% owned guys. And if you look at your projection, it's like 40 points below anyone else's. Is it worth it for that much to give up that much projection? Probably not. And if that lineup wins, that's still a negative EV lineup. So you have to look through these types of things. Why were they a bad play? I hate that word, play. No one's a play. There's lineups. There's 9 players in a lineup. Is that a good lineup? Is that a bad lineup? Is that a plus EV or negative EV lineup? Not even good or bad. That's what you should be concerned about. And you could learn a lot more about that in the theory of daily fantasy sports. It's my audio course. 15 hours long. How to think like a professional DFS player. See all the chapters here? Game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploits, psychology, a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. Got some quotes here. FAQ, everything. So 15 hours of me in your pocket. And you can listen to it multiple times. Obviously, you could go through this DFS pregame show I've been doing for, 2 years? Year and a half? You could watch every show if you want and probably pick up pretty much everything that's in here. That's going to take you a long time. If you want one-stop reference source, go to theoryofdfs.com and get the course. And you'll understand more of what the hell I'm talking about. Lineups, not players. All of that is in here. And it applies to any sport. It's not just NFL. It's anything. It's not a coincidence that the best players are the best players in like every sport. Like, the top players in NFL also do well in NBA, or also do well in NHL, or also do well in MLB or MMA, or like why is that? They just know all the sports? No, most don't even watch sports. My most profitable sport is NBA, and I can't remember the last time I watched an NBA game. Can't even remember. I don't even like it. I don't like NBA. So how do you play the game of DFS? Theoryofdfs.com. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Like I said, Grinders live later day for MLB. Crunch time for premium members. So if you're in the premium Discord, I could always answer questions there. So sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. Get $10 off your first month by clicking on the link in the description. And tomorrow we'll finally take a kind of like a first look-see at the Sunday week 3 NFL slate and go over DFS strategy, answering your questions as always, like I do Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern on the DFS pregame show. on RotoGrinders.com.